How do you know if you're a failure? I don't mean how do you know if you failed? Those are different questions. Projects fail, marriages fail, businesses fail, ideas fail, people fail each other. But I'm asking something much bigger. How do you know if a person is a failure? I used to think that I knew. A few days ago, I was digging through scripts from an old podcast I used to host called Turn Up the AC. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. One of these scripts caught my attention. I'd written that one when I was 46 years old. And reading it was kind of like opening a letter from somebody that I used to know. And the funny part is that someone was me. I talked about my two ex-wives. I talked about my career. I talked about not having a retirement plan. I talked about trying to figure out how to be a single dad. I even admitted that some days I wished that there was a real grown up I could hand my life over to for a while. And then I asked the question, am I a failure? And when I first read it again, I caught myself wanting to answer no, except I don't think that's my answer anymore. Not because I think that he was wrong, past me, I mean, because he wasn't wrong. He knew exactly what it felt like to be him. But I am no longer in that position. I can't honestly tell 46-year-old Tony what his life felt like any more than he could have told 53-year-old Tony what this one would feel like. That script isn't wrong. It's historical. It's an honest record of where I was. I think we do something strange with our past selves. We treat them like witnesses who need to be cross-examined. We pull out old journals, old Facebook posts, old photographs, old beliefs, and we start correcting them. But I don't feel much interest in doing that anymore. I'd rather understand him than correct him. And the reason I found that script in the first place was because I was looking for a quote from Rocky Balboa.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
I remembered using it years ago. I just couldn't remember where. And when I found the script, I realized something. The quote hadn't changed, but I think I had. 7 years ago, I heard a guy talking about determination. Today, I hear a guy talking about endurance, and those aren't quite the same thing. Determination makes me think about charging ahead, and endurance makes me think about surviving long enough to take another step. Life has a funny way of changing the pictures in your head. Back then, getting back up was an inspiring idea. And since then, it's become something I've had to practice, not once, but over and over. Sometimes getting back up looked exactly like you'd expect. Sometimes it looked like therapy. Sometimes it looked like admitting I was wrong. Sometimes it looked like apologizing. Sometimes it looked like asking for help. Sometimes it looked like sitting quietly because I didn't actually know the answer. 7 years ago, I thought I was trying to answer whether I was a failure. Today, I think I'm asking a different question. By what standard? That's become one of the biggest questions in my life, not just about failure, but about almost everything. Why do I believe what I believe? How do I know when I'm right? What standard as am I using? Whose standard am I using? The pandemic gave me more time alone with my thoughts than I probably wanted. Therapy gave me better questions than I had before, but neither one gave me many final answers. I still care what people think, probably much more than I would like to. I would love for more people to see me exactly the way I see myself. I'd love for more people to agree with my conclusions, of course. I'd love for more people to think my life has been meaningful. The thing is, I just don't get to decide any of that. People are going to judge me. Some people will look at 2 divorces and see failure. Some people will look at my disability and see failure. Some people will look at my career and see failure. Some people will listen to this podcast and wonder why I'm still bothering. And they're all free to do these things. I can't argue with how someone else measures a life. I can only clarify how I measure my own. And even then, I hesitate. During this week, while I was thinking about all this, I caught myself saying something. I said, I thought failure only happens when we stop trying. The more I sat with that, the less satisfied I became, though, because there have been times when I did stop trying. Not forever, just long enough. Long enough that I don't get to pretend that I didn't do it. So maybe that isn't quite it either. Maybe what I'm actually looking at isn't whether I've always moved forward. Maybe it's whether the general direction of my life has been forward. And that's a different claim. It's also a much more humble one. When I look back, I don't see a straight line. I see a guy who's changed his mind, a guy who has held beliefs that he no longer holds, a guy who's hurt people, a guy who's tried to make amends, who has asked questions that ruined his comfortable answers, who has kept asking anyway. I don't know whether that counts as success, and I don't know whether it keeps me from being a failure. Honestly, I'm not sure that these are even objective categories anymore. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. What I do know is that I found a 7-year-old script written by a man who is trying to answer an honest question. And I don't think that he deserves to be corrected. I think he deserves to be heard. Today, I'm still asking his question, but I'm just being more careful about pretending that I know how to answer it.